How much longer are we expected to wait for a sense of normalcy during this bizarre Minnesota Vikings offseason? Reports indicate that franchise legend Harrison Smith is officially delaying his retirement decision well into training camp, echoing a tense uncertainty we have not seen since the Brett Favre era. This situation is massive because it leaves a gaping hole in our secondary with no clear succession plan in place. There are really two things we need to break down here: the reality of his extended timeline and the major questions it creates for the roster. The more details emerge, the more this feels like a turning point. Hit the like button, subscribe, and drop your name and city in the comments, and let's get into it. Vikings legend Harrison Smith remains the biggest mystery of the 2026 offseason as he continues to weigh his future in purple. A pillar of this defense for 14 seasons, Smith has earned his status as a franchise icon by racking up 39 interceptions, 180 tackles, 21.5 sacks, 45 quarterback hits, and 13 forced fumbles across 207 games. His legacy is etched into the very foundation of this team, which makes the uncertainty surrounding his potential retirement particularly difficult for us fans to process. According to the Athletic insider Alec Lewis, we should not expect a final decision anytime soon. In fact, reports suggest Smith might delay his choice until deep into training camp, potentially waiting until after several preseason games have been played. And here's why that's a big deal. Beyond the nostalgia, our front office has yet to finalize a concrete succession plan in the secondary, leaving us in a state of limbo similar to those tense summers when Brett Favre kept us waiting on his return. While some point to last year as a successful blueprint for a late start, the fact remains that our defense is currently operating without its most experienced leader. The emotional weight of this is heavy because we are watching a future Hall of Famer nearing the end of a historic tenure, and nobody truly knows if we have already seen his final snap. This slow burn approach from the 37-year-old safety is starting to feel like a high-stakes gamble on his own longevity. If the Vikings are indeed hunting for pass rush help after the trade of Jonathan Greenard to Philadelphia, how can Nolan Teasley possibly construct a defensive scheme if the most important veteran in the locker room remains a complete question mark for the foreseeable future? Harrison Smith might delay his retirement decision until the very end of training camp, a timeline that mirrors the unconventional return of Brett Favre to the Minnesota Vikings between 2009 and 2010. Alec Lewis of The Athletic reports that Smith is in no rush to decide his future, opting to wait deep into the summer to gauge his physical readiness and desire to continue his legendary career. The truth is, this approach is essentially a calculated bet on his own longevity. Having appeared in 207 games for this organization, Smith has accumulated 1,180 tackles, 39 interceptions, 21.5 sacks, 45 quarterback hits, and 13 forced fumbles. His decision to remain on the sidelines last year due to a personal health issue provided a template for this potential 15th season, as the team observed that a slower physical ramp-up actually helped him finish the season with high impact during their 5-game winning streak. Behind closed doors, Nolan Teasley and Kevin O'Connell likely view this as a low-risk arrangement because Smith possesses an encyclopedic understanding of the defensive system installed by Brian Flores. While the front office has yet to finalize a permanent post-Smith plan for the secondary, they clearly value the mentorship and veteran presence he brings, even if he arrives late to the facility. Ben Gosling of the Star Tribune noted on KFan that it would not be surprising to see him join the roster after a few preseason games have already been played. If Smith does return, he will be 37 years old, testing whether this slow start model can sustain a future Hall of Fame safety through an entire NFL grind. We are watching a unique situation unfold where patience is being traded for production, and the organization seems fully prepared to wait for their veteran leader to make his final call. Now that we have covered the latest developments, let us dive into what this uncertainty actually signifies for the future of our secondary. What makes this even bigger is that the Vikings currently lack a clear succession plan for a true legend of the game. The immediate impact is that our roster depth remains in limbo, while the front office balances the need for veteran leadership against the reality of building for a new era. With the defensive landscape shifting after the recent trade of Jonathan Greenard to Philadelphia, we are left wondering who will provide the necessary pressure at the edge to support a secondary that might be missing its anchor. If Harrison Smith indeed waits until the middle of the preseason to return, the coaching staff will have a very narrow window to integrate him into the complex defensive schemes required for our toughest games against division rivals. Without his presence, our ability to control the pace of play and manage high-pressure situations could be severely tested early in the season. These matchups against the Bears and the Packers represent the core of our schedule, and a slow start in the secondary could jeopardize our path to a division title or a meaningful playoff run. We are effectively betting on a known quantity that might not be available, which forces us to rely heavily on younger, unproven talent during critical early weeks. This strategy is a gamble that echoes the past, yet it leaves the current defensive unit vulnerable to faster, more experienced offenses that will be looking to capitalize on any early season hesitation. Watching this situation unfold requires patience, but we must acknowledge that our defensive identity is hanging in the balance while we wait for one of our greatest players to decide if he will take the field once more. The upside of allowing Harrison Smith to delay his retirement decision until the late stages of training camp is that we retain one of the most intelligent minds to ever grace the secondary. By bypassing the grueling grind of early spring reps, the 37-year-old legend can spare his body from unnecessary wear and tear while still providing his veteran leadership to defensive coordinator Brian Flores. And I cannot stress this enough, Smith understands this defensive scheme better than anyone on the roster, which minimizes the urgency for him to be present during the opening days of camp. However, the downside remains that the Vikings have not established a concrete succession plan for when he eventually hangs up his cleats. If he returns late, we might be caught flat-footed without a proven replacement ready to step into his shoes. Alec Lewis of The Athletic notes that waiting this long creates a unique uncertainty, while Ben Goosling of the Star Tribune suggests that we should not expect a final answer until preseason games are actively being played. Other teams around the league likely view this as a potential vulnerability, especially with the Philadelphia Eagles already sniffing around our defensive unit following the trade of Jonathan Greenard. Here's where I land on this. While the experts seem to think this slow ramp-up approach is a blessing in disguise that mimics last year's success, I find that narrative a bit too optimistic. Waiting until mid-August to find out if your star safety is actually coming back is a dangerous game of chicken that could leave our defense scrambling if he decides to call it a career at the 11th hour. While Harry has earned this level of respect, the front office must ensure that they are not pinning our entire secondary strategy on a player who is quite clearly standing with one foot out the door. When you combine the uncertainty of the defensive roster with the deliberate, patient approach of a franchise legend, the picture that emerges is one of a team in a true transitional phase under general manager Nolan Teasley. This is where it gets real because the Vikings are clearly attempting to balance the need for immediate pass rush production with the respect owed to a veteran like Harrison Smith. For us as fans, this means the next few months will be defined by calculated patience rather than frantic moves. We should feel a sense of calm confidence, knowing that a slow-played decision by Smith might actually mirror the successful health management model from last season that helped the defense thrive during that impressive 5-game winning streak. The front office is not rushing into a panic, and by allowing the hitman to dictate his own timeline, they are prioritizing long-term stability over short-term noise. It is a mature strategy that reflects the reality of building a roster capable of sustaining success in a competitive league. We have seen this type of slow ramp-up work before, and the fact that both Alec Lewis and Ben Goosling agree on the timeline suggests that the organization is fully aligned with their veteran leader. The mystery surrounding our pass rush following the departure of Jonathan Greenard is a hurdle, but one that provides room for new talent to emerge as we head towards September. With the season approaching, we have to look at these two paths and decide how we view the defensive future. Would you prefer the team aggressively sign a high-priced veteran pass rusher today? Or are you comfortable waiting to see if Harrison Smith returns to anchor this secondary one more time? If you enjoyed the video, do not forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. SKOL. I'll see you in the next one.